Welcome to the deep dive, everyone.
Glad to be here.
So today our mission is to completely unpack a really insightful new piece of writing from April 21st, 2026. It's by Cheryl Bridges, a bachelor social worker, and it's called The Neurodivergent Edge, Harnessing ADHD as a Superpower.
It's a fantastic piece.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the goal here is to explore how traits that are, traditionally labeled as deficits are actually, when you really understand them, a unique set of high-level skills.
Right. Highly specialized skills.
Okay, let's unpack this, because society has historically viewed ADHD as just, well, a hurdle to overcome, right? Or this constant challenge you have to manage.
Oh, absolutely. The medical model is always focused on what's broken.
Yeah, and that creates immense pressure for people to just fit themselves into a neurotypical mold. But reading this, I kept thinking of an analogy. It's like, imagine having a brain that is permanently tuned to an FM radio frequency, right?
Okay, I like where this is going.
But the rest of the entire world is broadcasting on AM.
Yes, exactly.
You don't have a broken radio. You're just
Yeah.
receiving completely different signals.
That's a perfect way to look at it. And Bridges explicitly states in the source that the ADHD brain operates on, quote-unquote, different frequency.
A different frequency. Yeah. I love that.
Right. And she explains that the whole deficit narrative is essentially a myth. By looking at these unique cognitive styles as actual strengths rather than burdens, we can really understand how ADHD provides this distinctly advantageous way of processing the world.
It's so empowering. And to you, the listener, whether you have ADHD yourself or, maybe you suspect you might be tuned to that FM frequency, or even if you're just curious about how different minds work, this deep dive is going to completely flip the script on how you view productivity and focus and creativity.
It really will. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to ask, what do these different frequency traits actually look like in action?
Yeah, let's get into that, because here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, for sure.
The source identifies these specific high-level skills as literal superpowers. And the first one is hyperfocus.
Right. Which totally goes against the usual stereotype.
Exactly. The stereotype is just like this total inability to pay attention. You picture someone constantly distracted.
Now, off the walls.
Right. But the source reveals that when an ADHD brain is actually captivated by a topic, it completely tunes out all distractions. It locks in.
It's incredible to see. They enter this state where they can master complex subjects at just astonishing speeds.
And produce really high-quality work, too.
Right. It's like a flow state on overdrive.
Mm.
The brain takes all those scattered cognitive resources and just forces them into this single, powerful laser beam.
Laser beam. Okay, but I have to push back a little bit here on behalf of the listener.
Go for it.
If this hyperfocus is so powerful, if you have this laser beam, why is it so notoriously hard for people with ADHD to just, sit down and do their taxes?
The classic question.
Right. Or finish a totally mundane expense report. Why can't they just point the laser beam at the boring stuff?
Well, according to the source material, getting started on the boring stuff is the actual challenge, because hyperfocus is fundamentally interest-driven.
Interest-driven, not will-driven.
Exactly. A neurotypical brain can use willpower to force its way through a boring task, right? But the ADHD brain relies on a different chemical fuel. It needs genuine interest to spark that dopamine release.
So without the interest, the engine literally just stalls out.
It stalls. But, and this is where it gets really cool, when we look at the other extreme, Bridges introduces another major superpower: crisis calm.
Crisis calm. I mean, that sounds like a paradox.
It does, but think about it. When a massive emergency arises, neurotypical people usually panic. Their stress spikes, they freeze.
Right, everyone is running around with their hair on fire.
Exactly. But the ADHD brain, in that exact same scenario, gets this sudden massive rush of dopamine.
Oh, wow. So the disaster actually wakes the brain up.
Yes. It provides that intense stimulation they've been craving. That rush of chemicals allows for incredibly clear thinking and really decisive action in these fast-paced, unpredictable environments.
That's wild. So they are basically the people you want in the room when everything goes completely wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They become the calmest person in the room because the external chaos finally matches their internal speed.
Okay, so if these brains are capable of this intense focus and, remaining so incredibly calm during disasters, it really raises a question about normal everyday life.
Yeah, how does this play out on a Tuesday afternoon?
Exactly. How does this affect daily interactions and personal growth?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the author reframes these everyday quote-unquote symptoms, the things usually seen as negative.
Like what?
Take impulsivity, for example.
Oh, yeah. usually heavily penalized in a classroom or an office.
Right, traditionally very negative. But Bridges reframes impulsivity into a spark of spontaneity.
A spark of spontaneity. I like that.
Yeah, it translates to this willingness to take calculated risks, to try completely new things. It makes them a really engaging, fun companion.
Because they aren't overthinking every single move.
Exactly. They just go for it.
And the source makes this really interesting point about sensory information, too, about how much data the ADHD brain takes in.
Yes, the sheer volume of processing.
It made me think of this analogy. It's like having your brain's sensory net cast incredibly wide.
A wide sensory net. That's a great visual.
Right. And while it might catch some, garbage that causes sensory overload, like a really annoying buzzing light or scratchy fabric.
The static.
Yeah, the static. But that same wide net also catches these brilliant insights and tiny details that literally everyone else's narrower nets just miss completely.
And that's exactly what the text calls intuition and pattern recognition.
Pattern recognition.
Yes. Because that wide net is dragging in so much subtle data microexpressions, shifts in tone, the person can read a room incredibly easily.
They just feel the vibe instantly.
They do. They empathize deeply. And they can anticipate trends because they see the patterns forming from all these scattered data points.
That is such an incredible advantage. But the source also talks about what happens when you have to navigate a world that doesn't understand that.
Yes, the resilience aspect.
Right. Bridges talks about resilience and adaptability. Because if you're navigating a world built for neurotypical brains, especially for someone processing a late diagnosis...
Oh, late diagnoses are a huge factor here.
Yeah, you spend years feeling broken. And that forces the individual to learn how to bounce back from mistakes over and over again.
You build incredible resilience. You learn to thrive during totally unexpected life transitions because you've had to adapt constantly your whole life.
But wait, this brings up a really glaring contradiction for me.
Okay, what is it?
If the listener has these incredible traits, crisis calm, spontaneity, deep pattern recognition, hyperfocus, why does the source's FAQ specifically acknowledge that people with ADHD often feel utterly exhausted?
This raises an important question, and Bridges addresses it head on. Even superheroes have weaknesses.
Right. Superman has kryptonite.
Exactly. And for the ADHD brain, the kryptonite is the modern environment. Think about a 9-to-5 office or a rigid, quiet classroom.
They are totally designed for neurotypical brains.
100%. So the exhaustion doesn't come from the superpowers. It comes from masking.
Masking, meaning acting neurotypical.
Yes. Trying to force that FM radio to play an AM station. Fighting against your brain's natural flow takes an incredible amount of energy. It drains the battery so much faster than just being yourself.
Because you're constantly running this background program just to suppress who you are.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we fix that? Because the source does provide these really practical frameworks, these specific tools to manage the brain, especially for nudging that hyperfocus when you have to do boring tasks.
Yes, you have to trick the brain into engagement.
Right. And the first one she mentions is gamifying.
Gamifying, yes.
Yeah.
Setting a timer and basically racing against yourself.
Like turning a boring spreadsheet into a high-stakes competition just to get a little hit of dopamine.
And it creates that artificial urgency.
And the second tool is finding a hook.
Right. Connecting the mundane task to a larger passion project. You have to find the meaningful thread.
So it's not just data entry. It's data entry that fuels this amazing creative thing I care about.
Exactly. It shifts the brain's perspective.
But the third one really surprised me. Body doubling.
Oh, body doubling is fascinating.
Working alongside someone else. But they don't even have to be doing the same task.
Nope. They could be reading a book while you do your taxes. It's about external stimulation.
Because of that wide sensory net again.
Yes. The brain is starved for stimulation. Having another person's quiet, productive energy in the room gives the brain just enough background input to feel anchored.
Wow. Just settles the nervous system.
It really does.
Now, I want to bring up my favorite analogy from the author. She talks about medication and therapy, and she uses the Iron Man concept. Can you explain that?
I love this part. Because owning your frequency, embracing these superpowers, doesn't mean you just abandon your medication or quit therapy.
Right. It's not about just running wild.
Exactly. Bridges compares these tools to Iron Man's suit. Tony Stark is a genius, right? That's his superpower.
Yeah, the brain is the power.
But the suit, the medication, the coaching, the therapy, those are the tech upgrades.
Yeah.
They manage the static.
They protect him.
Yes.
Yes.
They allow his natural brilliance and strengths to shine more brightly without stifling his actual creativity.
Although she does include a caveat about that,
She
right?
does. The text notes that if a treatment or a medication actually has the opposite effect, if it numbs you or kills that spark, you are not alone.
Right. It's about finding the right tech upgrade.
Exactly. It has to fit you.
And once you have the suit calibrated and you have these tools in place, then it's time to take these superpowers into the real world, into the workplace.
And the possibilities there are endless. The author breaks down specific fields where ADHD brains just naturally thrive.
Entrepreneurship being a massive one.
Oh, huge. In entrepreneurship, you need a high tolerance for risk. You need passion.
And that spontaneity, the
Yeah.
ability to pivot quickly when things change.
Exactly. The business world highly rewards those exact traits.
She also mentions STEM and the arts.
Yes, in STEM science, tech, engineering, math, that hyperfocus and pattern recognition are absolutely perfect for solving complex equations or designing innovative software.
Because they see the connections nobody else sees.
Right. And in the arts, that boundless creativity and that wide sensory net lead to genuinely groundbreaking work.
So what does this all mean for the listener? Because knowing your strengths is great.
Very validating.
Yeah, but you still have to deal with bosses, right? And teachers who might only see the old deficit stereotype when they hear the letters ADHD.
The gatekeepers.
Right. I mean, telling your boss you have ADHD might instantly trigger all their biases. But the way I see it, translating it into corporate speak is like putting a brilliant marketing wrapper on your brain.
A marketing wrapper. That's exactly what the author advises. You don't lead with the label, you lead with the functional strengths.
How does she phrase it?
Well, instead of using the word ADHD, you tell them you, quote-unquote, thrive in fast-paced environments and perform best under tight deadlines.
Which is just crisis calm and hyperfocus.
Exactly. You just translated it. Or if you're talking about that wide sensory net, you say you have a non-linear thinking style that allows you to brainstorm creative solutions and spot patterns.
Spot patterns. It's brilliant because you're telling them the absolute truth about how you operate, but in a language they already value.
Right. You're speaking their dialect.
So just to kind of bring this all together, we've been on quite a journey with this deep dive today.
We really have.
The core takeaway here is that you have to stop trying to be quote-unquote normal.
Normal's overrated anyway.
Right. Allow yourself to be exceptional by embracing your frequency. Acknowledge the quirkiness of how your brain reacts to stimulants, and use your tools, your tech upgrades, to manage the static.
And remember, knowledge is only valuable when it's applied.
Absolutely.
By recognizing these traits, the crisis calm, the hyperfocus, as your unique cognitive toolkit, you can actually build a fulfilling life, a life that celebrates exactly who you are, rather than constantly feeling like you're falling short of some random neurotypical standard.
Yeah, you aren't a broken AM radio. You are a highly tuned FM receiver.
Perfectly said.
But I want to leave you, the listener, with one final provocative thought to just, mull over.
Oh, I love these.
We talked a lot about how modern environments are built for neurotypical brains, right?
Yeah.
And how trying to fit into a rigid 9-to-5 world is what drains your battery and causes that massive exhaustion.
The masking.
Exactly. So what would a workplace look like if it were designed from the ground up specifically to harness the neurodivergent superpower?
Oh, wow.
Right. What if the whole environment was built for the FM frequency?
That would change everything.
It really would. Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we'll see you next time.